If Kevin Durant ends up losing in this first round matchup against the Timberwolves, how does this affect his legacy? Is it a bad look? Should we criticize him even more? Now, I'm going to be playing the clip with Stephen A. Smith in a moment here. But before I get into that and we react to it, I will say this: even though Kevin Durant is my favorite basketball player and I also love Kobe at the same time, I can't defend him going forward because you have Devin Booker, you have Bradley Beal, you have a really good roster here. And also, you were 3-0 against the Wolves this year during the regular season, where you averaged 129 points a game. But in game one of the playoffs, what happened? The Wolves out rebounded them 52 to 28. Anthony Edwards had 18 points in the third quarter. He took over the game. Do I see the Suns winning this series? I don't, because I think the Timberwolves defense is so elite that it's going to have an effect during the series. Sure, I think the Wolves will go through the offensive struggles because they have their moments where they struggle to develop quality shots. But I think the biggest X factor for me is not only their defense, but Anthony Edwards taking over during critical parts of the game. I just trust him more at this stage of his career. Now, I still think this series does go 7 games, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on Kevin Durant next year. So let's look back. He was with Brooklyn, lost in the semifinals. I know Kyrie was hurt. I know James Harden has hamstring situation going on, but you scored 0 points in overtime. You've got to take over for the entire game, especially. I know he had the foot on the line. If his toe wasn't there, they would have gone to the conference finals. Even with all that being said, you have to score in overtime. I can't just allow that to keep happening and say, yeah, Kevin Durant's my guy, but you have to take over because you are the guy. Let's go to the next year. You lose in the first round against Boston. You got whacked. Now I know they had injuries. There was a lot of chemistry issues. James Harden got out with the trade. But again, this is Kevin Durant we're talking about. We go to last year, lost in 6 to Denver. Okay, cool. Chris Paul got hurt. You pushed him to 6 games. But you haven't been in a conference finals since you left Golden State. For me, Kevin Durant needs a deep playoff run. He needs to be in the conference finals or NBA finals in the next few years because if he doesn't and he ends his career this way, it's not a good look. Again, two things can be true. I think he's a top 20 player, but when it comes to putting him in the conversations with guys like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Steph Curry, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, like I can't put him in those conversations because yes, you did get OKC to the finals and you made a couple of conference finals in the West when you had Westbrook, but ever since you left Golden State, what's happened? And it's a result driven league. Let me go ahead and let's play a clip of Stephen A. We're going to be reacting to it.
What's on the line for KD versus the Wolves?
Well, if we're gonna talk about legacy with LeBron James, how come we can't talk about legacy with Kevin Durant?
It's got a point there.
I think that Kevin Durant is a natural born professional scorer. He's one of the greatest players you've ever seen in NBA history. Um, he's got two championships.
Again, two things can be true at the same time. He's a great scorer. He's an all time great. But again, what's happened in the playoffs since you left Golden State? We have to have proper conversations about Kevin Durant. You got Bradley Beal, you got Devin Booker. And again, I love Kevin Durant, but I think, if you lose to the Wolves after you went 3-0 in the regular season, and let's just say they lose in 5 or 6, that's going to be a hard thing to overcome for Kevin Durant, especially going to next season because the Western Conference is only going to get better. Let's go ahead and continue.
He's got two NBA Finals MVPs, but that was playing with the Splash Brothers, the most elite shooting backcourt the game of basketball has ever seen. Now they needed him to win because they would not have won without him. And despite the greatness of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant was still unquestionably the best player on the Golden State Warriors. And at that time, vying for a top two, top three spot as the best player in the game. But in the end, here's what it comes down to. Much to the chagrin of his loved ones and him and others who definitely have a problem with me saying this. Um, he hasn't been out of the second round since he departed from Golden State. He never won a title before he arrived. When he departed from Oklahoma City to go to Golden State, it was after they were up 3-1 and gave up a 3-1 lead, lost to the Golden State Warriors in that season that they won 73 games and ultimately lost to LeBron James in the NBA Finals. And 3 weeks later or so, this man is a member of the team that came back from a 3-1 deficit and beat him, which obviously created a lot of criticism aimed in his direction, led by me, unapologetically so, I might add.
So let's go back to the time Kevin Durant did go to Golden State. I think for me, if you're a free agent, you go to wherever you want. I'm not against that because you have the opportunity to sign where you want to go. Now, Kevin Durant at the time went to Golden State because he wanted to play basketball the right way. You stay there for 3 years, you get your 2 championships, but you leave. What doesn't get talked about enough for Kevin Durant is him leaving the Golden State Warriors is looking like one of the worst decisions ever. I know, win those rings was important because you need that on your resume. But people are looking at him like, okay, it was easy for you. And I agree. It was easy because you have Steph Curry, you've got Klay Thompson, you've got all these elite players. Now, he was the best player during that time when they made their run. But, you have to continue to build out your resume. And leaving Golden State, it just made me realize, bro, why'd you care so much about what they were doing? Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't care. You're there to win, play basketball, and play the right way, but you ended up leaving. It seems like you did care about what the fans were saying, the media was saying, and you gave into that. See, one thing I can criticize about Kevin Durant is, he was a diva, in my opinion. He would respond to people on Twitter. He would have a burner account, getting into it with fans. And I'm thinking to myself, why do you care so much? If you want to be great, just play basketball. I'm not saying you shouldn't have an opinion. I'm not saying you shouldn't respond, but at the same time, just do you. Because at the end of the day, you got to be locked in to your craft, especially when you're an athlete and when you're a guy like Kevin Durant, who's seen as a top 5 player in people's eyes. Especially in his career at OKC, he was right there with LeBron. There's only so much I can say about Kevin Durant, and I love him as a player, but he needs to be held accountable. That's just the facts.
Fast forward, you want to depart from Golden State. And you talked about going there because you just wanted to play the right way, implying that essentially playing with Russell Westbrook wasn't doing it for you. So you wanted to go to Golden State because you wanted to play the right way. Then you go to Golden State and you got a team that plays the right way, plays on the championship level, is led by one of the greatest superstars this game has ever seen in terms of his image, not just his game, is Steph Curry. And you depart from him to go to Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving. And while there, y'all got out of the second round. I'm sorry, you got out of the first round once. Now, that wasn't any fault of Kevin Durant. He was absolutely spectacular in that series against Milwaukee that they lost in 7 games in the semifinals. And if Kyrie Irving hadn't got hurt, I believe Brooklyn might have won it all. But nevertheless, it happened. And so now that we look at him collectively and we see everything, the bottom line is this: Brooklyn, and now you in Phoenix, you lose in the second round last year, you go into this first round series. If you get bounced out, how are we to look at him? It's not going to be in a good light, because what have you done since you departed from Steph Curry?
This is why I think these next 2 years in Phoenix are very critical for Kevin Durant. Because if they get knocked out by the Timberwolves this year, he's going to get slammed, and rightfully so. Because again, they played really well against the Wolves this season in the regular season. They were 3-0. Anthony Edwards shot 31% from the field. Now, I didn't think Ant was going to keep shooting that way during the playoffs. However, if you get knocked out in the first round again and you come back next season and you're still in this play-in situation or close to it, that's a concern. I think for the Suns, I know they had injuries this year. They had to get chemistry. But if they don't build off this season and come into next season where they want to be a top 4 team in the Western Conference, it's going to be hard to defend it. Because, again, I know the Western Conference is competitive, but there has to be a separation here. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant have to be the best players on the basketball court, night in and night out. And they have the ability to do that. To me, they should be a top 3 duo in the NBA. Why not? Now, do I still think they need a point guard? Yes. Do I think they need some more front court help? Yes. However, if you get more help this offseason, and even if you don't, let's just say they have the same roster, they should be a top 4 team in the Western Conference, in my opinion. I know the Thunder are good. Don't want to dismiss them. I know the Nuggets will be there. I know the Mavs have Kyrie and Luka. And then you have, of course, the Pelicans. If Zion's healthy, I think he was very healthy this season, so I'm glad to see him. He played well, and I know he had the hamstring injury against the Lakers. But you have all these teams, and when I look at the Suns, I think to myself, they should be able to separate themselves. They should be able to rise to the occasion. And if Kevin Durant wants to be seen as that guy, and he wants to be in these conversations with guys like Michael Jordan, Kareem, LeBron, Kobe, Steph, Tim Duncan, and so forth, then he needs a deep playoff run. He needs that badly because ever since you left Golden State, these are the results. Now, I don't want to dismiss his championships because that did happen. That's why two things can be true at the same time. He was the best player with Golden State at the time when he was with Steph and Clay, and it was easy for him, of course, but he still has to go out there and execute. Also, if you have a chance to pick up Kevin Durant, you need to pick up Kevin Durant. If you're going to say no, then I don't want you as my GM. See, two things can be true at the same time. I can't put him in those conversations, but he's still an all-time great. Should I put him in the legendary playoff performers? I can't because legendary playoff performers don't score 0 points in overtime. Phenomenal player, all-time scorer, but what have you done in the playoffs lately? If they beat the Timberwolves, that'll be a good step. So if they go out and play Denver and they say they lose in a tough 7-game series, I'm not mad about that. I'm really not. But we'll have to wait and see. They got a big game against the Timberwolves tomorrow. We'll see how they adjust. I don't like this matchup for them. I know people had the Suns winning. And, I understand you have success in the regular season, but defense matters in the playoffs. And I like the Wolves' defense. Do I think it's going 7 games? I do. However, I won't be surprised if the Wolves knock them out in 5 or 6. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So, again, we'll see how this plays out for Kevin Durant and what he does going forward. There's going to be a ton of pressure on him next season. Like, if there's a guy that I put as under the most pressure next season, I'm going to put Kevin Durant there because the Phoenix Suns are running out of excuses. This team finishing 6th, I know it was a tough conference, but you come into this playoffs against the Wolves, they don't have as much experience. They have a target on their back, but again, you should be able to take advantage of that. Even if you lose to the Wolves, it's not the best look because, again, the narrative is, bro, what have you done since you left Golden State? And it's only going to get worse and worse for him. Even if they get knocked out this season, he needs to be in the conference finals next season. Like, I can't excuse that. I can't just dismiss it. Bro, you have to figure this out. I know he wants to go out there and hoop. He wants to go out there and just play basketball, but people are still going to criticize you. And if you don't like the opinions of people, well, this is what it's about. And again, I love Kevin Durant. He's my guy. But again, just have a good playoff run. Even if you lose in the finals, let's just say he gets to the finals next season, losing a tough 6 or 7 game series, I'm not mad about that. Obviously, there is luck involved with winning a championship. But at least have a dominant playoff run so that the perception of him changes. That's the key. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. How much pressure is Kevin Durant under? And also, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.